We were promised this. What we got was this. First impressions of the Boring Company's Las Vegas Convention Center loop have been underwhelming at best. But before we rush to judgment, let's take a moment to look at what exactly is going on here and why. The Las Vegas Convention Center, or LVCC, is one of the biggest public event spaces in the world with 2.5 million square feet of space. It's around a mile away from the Las Vegas Strip and consists of 3 large facilities stretched across its campus. Pre-COVID, the LVCC hosted a whole host of trade shows, including the tech industry's biggest event, CES, the Consumer Electronics Show. Now, CES is so big that it's too vast even for the LVCC, sprawling across Las Vegas to places like the Sands Expo, a mile and a half down the road. And CES attracts nearly 200,000 visitors each year, which has an unfortunate effect on the traffic in the surrounding area. At peak time, a bus between the LVCC and the Sands can take an hour, twice as long as if you just walked. To address this capacity crunch, authorities commissioned a new $980.3 million building across the road from the main LVCC, and it was expected to be completed in time for CES 2021, at least before the pandemic shut everything down. But this new hall just exacerbates the 2 major problems with the LVCC right now. The transport infrastructure around the building is insufficient to support these big shows, and the facility's sheer size makes it difficult for people to get around, especially between buildings. Journey times between adjoining halls can take up to 15 minutes, and crossing the campus can take up to an hour when it's busy. Now, it's this problem that saw the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority engage Elon Musk's tunneling business, the Boring Company, to address. In mid-2019, its board voted 13-1 to hire the business to dig a tunnel under the campus to connect the west, central, and south halls. The deal, initially priced at $48.7 million, saw the company drill 2 tunnels around a mile long with 3 stations to compress that hour-long walk down to a couple of minutes. At the time, the Las Vegas Review-Journal said that the system would use autonomous EVs based on the Tesla Model X, and that the company would only receive its final payout when it could demonstrate that the system could transport an average of 4,400 passengers per hour. Work began on the project in October 2019, and by May 2020, both tunnels had been dug, but the pandemic meant that the first time anyone could see the loop in action was earlier this month. What reporters found were a pair of tunnels barely wide enough for a car, with human-driven Tesla Model S's shuttling between the 3 stations. At present, there are 11 vehicles in the fleet, each taking up to 3 passengers and travelling at speeds up to 35 miles per hour, although the fleet is expected to grow to up to 60 cars in future. When speaking to CNBC, Steve Hill, president of the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority, said that the system would operate much like an Uber.
Where you have an app on your phone, you say, I'm here, I want to go there, car comes up, has an identifier on it that matches with what is on the app on your phone.
What he didn't explain, and something that we'd love to know a hell of a lot more about, is how the boarding and disembarkation process will work for each vehicle. Will there be systems in place, for instance, to maximize capacity, or when he said it's like an Uber, he means people are entitled to ride solo. Now that's not going to do much for the system's present capacity, which is nowhere near the 4,400 people per direction per hour needed for it to be declared a success. And even at 60 cars, if they're all Model S's with 3 passengers and a human driver, it's still going to be a stretch. I mean, let's say that it takes 2 minutes to travel in the tunnel from one end to the other and maybe 3 minutes stop time when the current passengers get out and their replacements get in. That's 12 trips per car per hour for a total of 36 passengers. Now, even if you do have 60 cars, that figure will fall far short of the intended goal. And that doesn't take into account breakdowns, recharging times, system failures, and other incidents which could slow things down even further. Eventually, the company hopes to replace these hand-driven Model S's with autonomous sleds based on the Model X platform, which are capable of carrying up to 12 people. Now, that may not be coming in the near future, since Tesla recently told California regulators that even its full self-driving package doesn't quite mean what you think it is. Not to mention that it's not clear if Tesla, the car company, has the resources available to devote a whole engineering division to building a fairly limited amount of self-driving capsules for public transport projects. What we're left with is a system that, despite all of those glorious LEDs, looks a little bit rubbish. The worst thing, of course, is that this system does have a measure of merit in order to deal with this one specific problem. Getting from one side of the LVCC to the other and finding a way to do that without adding to the traffic problems on the surface is vital. It's just that a smarter way to do this would have been with a bus or a train, and unfortunately the size of the tunnels makes it look like a bus would be too tight a fit, despite how obviously useful it would be. Now, the authority says that these journeys will be free of charge, and that sounds like a smart idea if some of these kinks can be worked out, because for people with mobility issues or folks who need to cross that distance in a hurry, any sort of system is welcome. It's just a massive, massive shame that this system, with so many obvious limitations, won out over so many more compelling alternatives. In December 2020, Las Vegas City Council agreed to explore building a planned Vegas-wide loop, which would further connect the city. The Boring Company has already outlined its vision for the system, which will see a series of tunnels dug from McCarran International Airport via the Allegiant Stadium, which is the new home of the Las Vegas Raiders, along the Strip and all the way up to Fremont Street. Now, unlike the LVCC system, which is free, this version would see customers paying fees to travel from major taxis. They've invented taxis. It's a taxi. It's an underground taxi in a tunnel. Well done. The pitch seems to be that an underground tunnel, a lot like a single-lane freeway, will enable faster and more efficient journeys, making each ride cheaper. A graphic on the Boring Company website says that a ride from McCarran to the LVCC would cost around $10, around half as much as it currently costs in a cab. Now, a lengthy explanation of induced demand is beyond the scope of this video, but making car rides cheaper is going to create a surge in the number of people wanting to use them.
Well, that's where you fell into a trap.
And, that's going to lead to that tunnel very quickly filling up, reducing the efficiency and increasing the price. Now, imagine that these tiny tunnels, which offer no room to exit or overtake, are meant to take a significant volume of surface traffic from the already very capacious roads running through Las Vegas. It's a real shame that Las Vegas private hire industry lobbied so loudly against the plan to extend the monorail all the way to the airport, which could have offered a better solution to this plan. The idea of moving traffic underground is not something that Elon Musk invented, and there are plenty of reasons why it's actually a fairly smart idea. Cities are currently designed around cars, and that's bad both for pedestrians and the built environment. A city like Las Vegas is so hostile to pedestrians that oftentimes taking a taxi is the default rather than an option. Pushing freeways underground means that cities can use all of that space to plant trees, create pedestrian plazas, and where the climate is good, offer outdoor dining, all of which has shown to be good for both the local economy and the environment. But not like this. This isn't good, and it doesn't solve the biggest issue with the system overall, which is that there are too many cars altogether. But I guess, inventing the bus or even the subway doesn't give you anywhere near as much kudos as building whatever the hell this is.